Good evening, everyone, and welcome for another live coverage which will continue to cast a light on the United States presidential race for the White House. Once again, Donald Trump is the 47th president after millions of Americans spent the whole day waiting for the official results of yesterday's election day. That would determine their fate, as the race was heating up between the Vice President Kamala Harris and the former United States President Donald Trump. Some election winners were declared in certain states. It was a tough decision as contenders Harris and Trump remained neck and neck, with the process coming down to a razor-thin margin in a few swing states which are considered to be key deciding the presidential race outcome, including Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Nevada. We have a lot more right after this.
Republican Donald Trump has won the 2024 presidential election, becoming the first convicted felon elected to the nation's highest office. He's also the first former president since Grover Cleveland to return to the White House after being voted out of the job. The 78-year-old is the oldest person in the U.S. history to be elected as president, and his victory caps one of the longest general election campaigns ever, which included 2 assassination attempts. Despite all the challenges, Republican Donald Trump claimed victory in the presidential contest after Fox News projected that he had defeated Democrat Kamala Harris earlier in the day. Trump appeared on the verge of winning after capturing the battleground states of Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, and holding leads in the other 4. On the other hand, Harris did not speak to her supporters who had gathered at her alma mater, Harvard University. Her campaign co-chair, Cedric Richmond, briefly addressed the crowd after midnight, saying Harris would speak publicly tomorrow. Trump, who chose U.S. Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio as his running mate, has refused to commit to accepting the 2024 results or to rule out possible political violence, while he and Republicans lay the groundwork to contest a potential loss. He promised to pardon supporters imprisoned for the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol and threatened to prosecute election officials, donors, Google, and others if he wins.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good. And the Senate races in Montana, Nevada, Texas, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, were all won by the MAGA movement. They helped so much. Frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And in addition to having won the battleground states of North Carolina, I love these places, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, we are now winning in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska, which would result in us carrying at least 315 electoral votes. But you have some great senators and some great new senators, and it also looks like we'll be keeping control of the House of Representatives.
And I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America. And under President Trump's leadership, we're never going to stop fighting for you, for your dreams, for the future of your children. And after the greatest political comeback in American history, we're going to lead the greatest economic comeback in American history under Donald Trump's leadership.
Tonight, we will dive deeper into the question on everyone's mind. What is the future of the United States with Donald Trump being elected as its 47th president? And how will the new United States president reshape ties with the world? On this occasion, we would like to welcome our dear guest, Dr. Khalid Al-Janfawi, writer, columnist, political analyst. Always a pleasure, Doctor, to have you in our studio to tackle some kind of issues.
Thank you for inviting me.
For the records, Dr. Khalid, he's sick and he overcame his sickness and he's right here in the studio looking a little bit better than you were before, weren't you?
Yeah, thank you.
Feel better today?
Inshallah.
Thank you so much.
Inshallah.
We appreciate your time. Sir, everyone in the world was watching the great event in the world, which is the United States election. And it was kind of a little bit, back and forth between the Democratic Party as well as the Republican Party, representation from Donald Trump, the former president, and the Vice President Kamala Harris. From your own perspective, the presidential race to the White House, outlining the future of the country. How would you see that?
I think the win of President Donald Trump gonna change fundamentally the internal structure of American politics.
Fundamentally, that's a hard
word. In
word.
other words, with the Republicans winning the Congress, in addition to Trump winning the Electoral College.
So, in other words, he has the absolute power now.
Indeed, this is what it seems to be, and we need to wait until the official inauguration of the president to see.
It's going to take place in January.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah,
20th.
So he's going to be like president-elect for a couple of months, and then after that we can measure the impact of his presidency on the world. But ultimately, the man is known for his straightforward talking. He has very obvious, very specific goals he wants to achieve around the world, and we have to wait for that until January to see what will happen on the global arena, if you like.
Millions of people, the American people, have submitted their ballots to decide the federal government and the state and local races. The whole situation is a historical situation. How do you think that this presidential election is going to overshadow the whole atmosphere, the whole globe of the world?
I think it will change the dynamics in the Middle East. It will change the dynamics of the war in Ukraine. It will change the relationship with China. It will become more intense because China has been represented during the previous Trump presidency as the ultimate economic enemy. Yeah, enemy or opponent of the states. Trump may raise the tariffs on Canada. He might require the NATO members to pay more, if you like, contributions. In other words, he will urge them, maybe he will force them, I think, to pay more.
Share the burden of the money.
Share the burden of the protection of NATO countries. And he will also make sure that the Abrahamic Accord will be established on the ground. In other words, he will make sure what he promised in the previous presidency of signing the normalization between the Arab world and Israel will come to be finalized. and I think we will see that very soon.
Regarding the Arab Gulf states, the GCC countries,
Yes.
they have an experience with Mr. Trump from the ex-presidency. It was started in 2016 all the way until the 20th. And they had a great relationship. And then they had to deal with Biden administration. Nowadays, people are skeptical. They say might change different here or there. Do you think it's the same old same, or something else is going to appear on the horizon in order for this relationship to continue on forward?
Well, I think the United States has obligations, security obligations towards the Gulf countries in particular. I don't think anything will change in regards to that, but maybe the relationship between Trump and the rest of the world will change, especially in his relationship with China and his promise to end the conflict in Ukraine. He promised he will end it in one day. No one can foresee what will happen next in regards to the war in Ukraine, but maybe he might issue a certain decree where he will prevent the use of long-range missiles in Ukraine, which will fundamentally, if you like, end the war in Ukraine.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's freezing cold in the studio, and Dr. Al-Janfawi is sweating so hard. You're still sick, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We appreciate that. We're not going to take too long. That's why we're going to take a break and come back to you.
Okay.
Stick around. The U.S. election is more than just a contest between two candidates. It is a reflection of America's diversity and values, aspirations, and the pressing agenda which is lie ahead. Former Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump each represent different visions for the country's future. Yet both are met with the substantial task of addressing critical agenda that will shape the coming years. All of that in this report.
The role of the U.S. president extends beyond domestic borders, with foreign policy being a significant responsibility. Navigating intricate relationships with global powers such as China and the NATO alliance requires diplomacy and strategic foresight. Additionally, the president will need to address world conflicts and promote peace initiatives, such as the escalations in Palestine and Ukraine, to foster international collaboration and security. Within the nation, agendas surrounding democracy and immigration are at the forefront. Maintaining the integrity of democratic processes is crucial, and viewpoints differ significantly between the candidates. Harris emphasizes safeguarding democratic norms against restrictive measures like voter ID laws, while Trump supports them to ensure election integrity. Addressing immigration entails crafting policies that are compassionate yet robust, balancing border security with the rights and dignity of migrants. Economic resilience and environmental sustainability present intertwined agendas. The transition to a sustainable economy involves promoting green investments to combat climate change, while considering the economic impacts on the oil and gas sectors. Prioritizing education will be key in preparing the workforce for emerging sectors, thus enhancing America's global competitiveness. Trade and regulatory policies further shape the nation's economic future. The next president must negotiate trade deals that bolster growth while protecting domestic interests and labor rights, ensuring the broader economy remains stable and prosperous. Therefore, the next U.S. president who assumes the presidency will encounter a complex array of agendas. Through leadership that encourages collaboration and unity, the president can address these pivotal issues, setting a course for a future that upholds the nation's values and fosters a thriving society for all.
Before we go back to Dr. Al-Janfawi, let us welcome our guest on the phone call from Kuwait, Dr. Ayed Al-Manna', the political analyst. Good evening, sir, and thank you so much for sticking around. Dr. Ayed Al-Manna', how do you evaluate the process of the United States election from the previous day up until the moment?
The significance of the United States presidential election 2024 is the returning of the defeated president in 2020, Donald Trump, who had been defeated on the hands of Joe Biden 4 years ago. I'm sure that the economy, the inflation, the immigrations, all these play a major role in giving Donald Trump the lead to get back to the White House. Surely also that's the other factors like the countryside voters who usually loyal to the Republican also give him a lead to be the next president. The Congress, whether the representative or the senators, all the indications show that it will be for the Republican, and that will enable the new president or the returning president to pass his regulations and laws to the upper and lower house, and he will be able to make it possible to be fulfilled. For the Arab Gulf states, our countries in the region, that we have generally good relations with the United States for a long times.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the political analyst, Dr. Ayed Al-Manna', and we are still live coming to you with another doctor. He's an academic and also a political analyst and also a columnist, Dr. Khalid Al-Janfawi. I believe that we gave you all the necessary break you were needed because you're still suffering from the flu.
Yes.
You're feeling better now?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Thank God. We should have brought something warm for you. If you've told me, I would have did it.
Thank you.
Sir, let's get on with it. Let's talk about a little bit about the new challenges that it might face the new president and his cabinet.
I don't think the new presidency or the new President Donald Trump will face any political challenges internally, meaning because of the overwhelming win of Republicans of the Congress and also the House, as expected. So he has the, if you like, the capacity, the ability to not to face any difficulties because the Republicans control the Congress now, and they will ultimately very soon control fully the House. So he will have no impediments, no struggle, no challenges in fulfilling whatever he wishes to achieve. In other words, whatever agenda President Trump will establish in the new presidency will go through the Congress very easily and through the House, because Republicans will smooth the process of every decision he makes. However, there is also the other side of the coin or of the equation. He might also use the State Department or other legal institutions in the government to pursue what he described during the campaign as the enemies within, meaning the Democratic parties, the Democratic activists, and that issue if he goes through that promise of prosecuting what he described as enemies within, that will create more struggle for the government itself, or at least the presidency, and maintaining social cohesion, internal security. You might also witness a lot of demonstrations by the opposition, say the Democrats and the Liberals and the Greens.
What do you mean by the demonstration? You mean public demonstration? People
Yeah,
on the streets?
Yeah, public demonstrations.
They are not going to accept the results of the
No,
ballots?
no, it's not about the results, but it will be about the decisions he will make after he is elected, as a president, after he will be inaugurated. In other words, the public reaction to his decisions, especially in regards to the deportation of immigrants. In other words, he promised a full-scale deportation of millions of immigrants, and many of those millions of immigrants have relatives, American citizen relatives. In addition to this, the different social and human, if you like, rights organizations within the states will raise many legal challenges in order to offset that electoral or election promise of deporting millions. In addition to this, the human catastrophe that will
When you say deporting the immigrants, that means undocumented people who are staying there illegally.
Yes,
and they breach the borders from Mexico and abroad.
Yeah, but primarily from Mexico, I think, and that is, Mr. Ahmed, I think is the ultimate challenge of the new government. In other words, if they are able to deport those millions of illegals,
they have their relatives.
They have relatives.
Might impact the whole situation.
Yeah, it might be socially, but also according to the Republican perspective, the illegal immigrants are a negative influence or have a negative influence on the economy. In other words, they are accused of taking American jobs, and they are also accused of entering the country illegally, and that illegal entry to the states.
Others, they see it as an advantage because they represent a very cheap labor, because the Americans, they're demanding more for them in order, extra paid paycheck and extra money. But when they have the immigrants and they are undocumented in the United States, they will work for cheap. This is their own perspective.
I think, indeed, that this is, I think, one of the elements of preferring working even illegal immigrants to take certain jobs. In other words, the typical American will not take all the jobs offered, otherwise you won't have unemployment in the States. In other words, there are certain menial and certain specific, maybe technical and labor intensive jobs that are taken by both legal and illegal immigrants. In addition to this, maybe the cheap illegal labor offers the employer, if you like, more opportunities to gain more profit. In other words, if you employ an American, you have to provide them with health insurance or medical insurance, with other certain legal guarantees. Otherwise, you won't have to do that with the undocumented and maybe sometimes even documented immigrants. In other words, the differences between the employment opportunities between Americans, if you like, American citizens and immigrants in general is that immigrants might be able, even legal immigrants, might offer services that typical Americans won't be able to fulfill, like in gardening, cleaning, all sorts of quote-unquote and low-paying jobs. In addition to this, I think the deportation of millions of illegal immigrants might have a positive impact on the economy. However, it will have also a negative impact socially. in addition to having maybe relatives legally, legal immigrants who are relatives to these illegals, or even American citizens who have some kind of a relationship with these illegals. You can also project or at least expect that there is also a human factor in this particular issue of deporting immigrants. In other words, the human factor, separating families. What happened before during the 2016 during the previous Trump administration, many families, many immigrant families were separated. Children were separated from their families, and that created a lot of humanitarian or human, if you like, suffering.
I have here some kind of information. It puzzles me because it says here there are reports of delaying and sabotaging the voting polls and the ballots. Is it correct? And how this is going to affect, the relationship between the government and the people and the rest of the world if we have here reports of delay and sabotaging the voting polls?
Well, that particular incident was just a minor incident. It wasn't like
nothing major.
Nothing major, and did not even impact the voting process itself. And no one actually knows exactly for now, at least for now, who is the perpetrators of that incident. However, Trump winning, spectacularly today is another indication that the election was actually free. The election was actually honest, and
according to them,
according to the final results, because Trump during the campaign accused the Democrats of cheating. In other words, he said
that was 2020 with Biden.
With Biden, and also during the last
Not
campaign.
Not only that, he sued the government. Sabotaging the whole thing and rigged. He described the election. A rigged election.
Yeah, indeed, and also he accused the Democrats of during this current, if you like, election, of impeding his victory. In other words, he said if we don't win, largely, if you like, if we don't win spectacularly, landslide, there might be cheating. Okay. But hopefully this is what happened today, is that he won with a landslide on both the popular vote and also the electoral college vote. And we hope that maybe the next Trump administration will offer the rest of the world another opportunity to achieve peace, say in Europe, within the Ukrainian and Russian conflict, offer peace in Gaza and in Lebanon. Who knows what will happen later, because presidents throughout history, American presidents throughout history, changed their policies according to the recommendations of their aides, according to the changing realities on the on the ground, if you like. We need to see later how Trump will deal with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He recommended earlier during the election campaigns that Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, should finish immediately the job. In other words, do whatever you wish, just end the whole thing. And this, of course, is a stark reminder that the victims of war in Gaza become only a number, digits within the say the military strategies of the Israelis and the economic and political strategies of the United States in its relationship with the Middle Eastern countries. We have to remember the humanitarian catastrophe that has been, if you like, perpetrated by the Israelis in Gaza and the current bombing of Lebanon. I mean, all those Middle Eastern challenges can also be seen within how the American superpower, if you like, will reposition itself in its relationship to the Middle East. In other words, China and Russia are vying to have more control in the Middle East, in Asia, and also specifically in Africa, especially the Russians and the Chinese.
And the African Horn.
Yeah, and the African Horn, and also the whole of Africa. So we have to wait and see how the Americans will deal with the conflicts in the Middle East, because the Middle East continues, or at least remains, the last place for the American power to establish its global dominance. In other words, if things get imbalanced, things get confusing, the war extends to the rest of the region, if there is a war with Iran, all these conflicts will impact negatively the role of the United States in the whole region. In other words, it will destabilize its control in the Middle East, and it will give more lay, if you like, more power to the Chinese and Russians to penetrate Africa and have more control in Europe. They will have more, if you like, say in regards to their relationship to NATO. NATO might appear very weak in front of Russia because Trump, during the previous administration, demanded that the Europeans pay their dues, and he accused them of not paying enough for their own protection, and otherwise he subtly indicated that otherwise he will leave them to the Russians to do whatever the heck they want to do with them, as he
had a thought
it.
to break up the whole alliance, the NATO alliance.
Yes, yeah.
Otherwise they have to pay for it. Now, as far as the economy is concerned, the United States has the largest economy in the world, and China is kind of competing with them.
Yes.
Now, after Donald Trump has won the presidency, he still has to get through the inauguration. He's a businessman.
Yes.
Do you think he is going to affect the whole world economy or not?
Well, I think his relationship with China will be determined by how he lays, let's say...
Now remember, back in the days, he raised the tariffs on the Chinese. In order for them to export their goods to the United States, they have to pay more.
Well, I think currently the primary economic challenge for the new administration is in the United States economic relationship with Canada, because the Canadians also are fearful of the Trump raising the tariffs. Maybe it might reach even more than 100%, if you like, as he promised many times before he was elected. But in regards to China, I think you will see a lot of business and economic maneuvering by the new administration, because China currently is, in addition to being a superpower, it also has a very powerful economy, and it's very difficult, I think, for the Trump administration to, if you like, cut or let's say to challenge China economically, because China now has many plants and factories all over Africa. They have in Mexico, they have in certain parts of Asia. So economically, I don't think China will represent a specific or a damaging, let's say, challenge to the Americans. What will happen now is, I think, is the focus on the Canadians, on Mexico, and the trade relationship between Canada and Mexico and the United States. After, I think, he finishes that either by raising tariffs or taking concessions from the Canadians and the Mexicans, if you like, you might see maybe a confrontation, an economic confrontation with China. All these issues, Mr. Ahmed, I think need to be read within the context of this developing new presidency. In other words, there is no definite answer to what will happen next. In other words, President Donald Trump might change his global policies, might see cooperation with global powers. He promised, and he also credited his presidency of not starting any wars in the world. And for the sake of that, of maintaining global peace, I think you will see a lot of concessions by both the Americans and the Russians and the Chinese to maintain global security, to maintain economic balance, the economic balance in the world. So politics in general, as we know, is very volatile, and one cannot predict specifically the
fluctuate.
the policies
stay as it is.
Yeah, the policies of presidents. But in regards to the economy, I think one of the elements that enabled Trump to win is the issue of economy, meaning typical Americans, most Americans, I think, care less about international issues. They care more about the economy, their own economy, their employment, their medical insurances, their taxes. They have no...
They have no interest of the other world.
I think whatsoever.
They have their own problems.
Yeah, whatsoever.
It needs to be solved.
In the global arena, he promised to make America great again, and I think this means to make America a great military power again, a great economic power again, an America where everyone can achieve their dreams, an America that is free of illegal immigrants, an America that has a very balanced relationship with its neighbors, with the other superpowers in the world.
You're feeling better. That's why you are talking too much. It's time for us to give you a break to reconvene with yourself and regain your power. Sure. Let's take a break, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot more with Dr. Al-Janfawi. As the head of the government of the United States, the president is the most powerful government official in the world. The president is elected to a 4-year term via an electoral college system. Since the 22nd Amendment was adopted in 1951, the American presidency has been limited to a maximum of 2 terms. More information about the United States president in this argument and reality.
The President of the United States is the leader of the country that shapes international policy and controls the course of the global economy. He is responsible for formulating the foreign and domestic policies of the United States. The U.S. Constitution, issued in the year 1787, grants the President of the United States of America, when he enters the White House, the powers at domestic and foreign levels, and he has the final say in major decisions that pass through a number of ministries and agencies, although Congress objects to some of them. The U.S. President is the first official responsible for the executive authority of the federal government, and is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. He is the one who imposes a state of emergency in the country and declares a general mobilization when necessary. The U.S. President has the right to use his authority to maintain order upon the request of one of the states, and he can also call upon the National Guard. The U.S. President is responsible for appointing members of the executive office, accompanying him and his advisors. The President of the United States of America is also responsible for convening and adjourning sessions of the House of Representatives and the Senate under exceptional circumstances. The U.S. President appoints ministers and judges of the Supreme Court, provided that a majority of the Senate approves their appointment. The U.S. Constitution gives the President the power to grant pardons and suspend the implementation of criminal sentences, except in cases related to the dismissal by a judicial decision. The President has the right to object or veto to the text of the laws approved by Congress, except for constitutional amendments. However, Congress can override the presidential veto by voting with a 2/3 majority of the members of the Senate and the House of Representatives. As for the President's powers at the foreign level, he is the one who has the power to draw up the foreign policy of the United States of America, and has the right to conclude treaties with other foreign powers, with the advice and the approval of 2/3 of the Senate. He is also the one who appoints ambassadors and participates personally or through his representatives in international negotiations. the US president can send military forces abroad for a period of 30 days. But if he wants to extend the mission of the sent forces, he must obtain the approval of Congress. The president does not have the power to declare war in principle because this decision is up to Congress. In return for the powers granted to the president, the US Congress, in its two chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives, has the right to remove the president after convicting him of either treason or corruption or any crimes and misdemeanors criminalized by US law. American history has witnessed 4 cases of impeachment by Congress against the president. The first against Andrew Johnson in 1968, the second against Richard Nixon in 1974, the third against Bill Clinton in 1998, and the fourth against Donald Trump in 2020. But the Senate acquitted Clinton and Andrew while Nixon resigned before his conviction in the famous Watergate case. And Trump was acquitted of the charge of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress.
Welcome back to KTV2 studio with our distinguished guest, Dr. Al-Janfawi. Sir, there are Muslim communities, Arab communities who are living in the United States, and they were engaged in the process of the election. And this kind of experience might reflect their own point of view democratically.
Yes.
Your thoughts about that?
Well, I think during the campaigns by both Trump and Harris, Harris addressed a group of Arab Americans in Michigan, and she revealed or shared her sympathy with what is happening in Gaza. Yani she basically revealed her at least emotional engagement with the catastrophes committed by the Israelis against the Palestinians, whereas Trump never discussed that, never, I think, met with Arab Americans and at least had a discussion with them. But even during that meeting with Harris, Reuters, the famous, if you like, agency, met or interviewed many Arab Americans after they met Harris, and they revealed their pessimism in regards to the both Trump and Harris presidency, because they knew or they argued that it is actually during the Biden's administration that the conflict in Palestine started.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I know you are a well-spoken person and you would love to keep on. And we are almost out of time. I have lots of questions and I have phone calls, but I want to go and skip and go forward with the other side of the whole world regarding the peace process in the Middle East. Do you think it's going to continue? Is it going to take a different shape or what?
I think it will continue, especially, and we will see the achievement of what was promised in regards to the Abrahamic Accord. I think you might see normalization between Israel and certain Arab countries, and all depends on how Trump deals with that. In other words, he might see the achievement of the Abrahamic Accord as his golden opportunity to achieve, quote-unquote, peace in the Middle East. And what might come out of that also, the normalization with, of relations with Israel and the Abrahamic Accord, is the establishment of a real Palestinian state, although limited in its political power. However, we will see maybe some kind of an independent Palestinian state centered in the Western Bank and certain parts of Gaza, and all those, if you like, although these are just, if you like,
what about China and North Korea? Do you think they're happy to have Trump back or not?
Well, I think North Korea might be happier. Yeah, happier. Yeah, because
they had a good relationship.
At least on the personal level between Trump and the president of North Korea. In regards to China, I think the Chinese are very clever and very wise. Historically, they are known of giving concessions, maneuvering, and being able to accept agreements. Maybe at least in the next few months, you will see more focus in the administration on the economic relationships with Mexico and Canada. And after that, you will see maybe more engagement, through a powerful engagement with NATO. Yeah.
Okay, we are almost done with you, Doctor. Regarding your health, if it was up to me, I would stay all night long. Let's take a break and come back with Dr. Al-Janfawi. Folks, we'd love to welcome our next guest from Washington, D.C., Dr. and Mr. Osama Abdulaziz, the correspondent from Al Akhbar channel. Good evening, sir, and let's get on with it because we are almost out of time. What do you have to tell us about the United States election and what exactly is going to happen next, Mr. Osama?
Trump won the election this year. Americans awoke Wednesday to the news that Donald J. Trump has once again won the White House, a remarkable political comeback that beyond investor and drew congratulations from around the globe. His victory was confirmed just after 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Mr. Trump's supporters were celebrating a clear-cut win in the pre-election polls and suggested that he would be tight race. It will take days for final vote count. Mr. Trump will return to the White House for 4 years after his loss to Joe Biden, with the Senate and the Republican supporting him. Control of the House Representative was not yet determined. Vice President Kamala Harris' defeat marks the second time in 8 years that women become the Democratic Party presidential nominee, only to fall short of Donald Trump. Mr. Trump on the track to win the popular vote, which would make him the first Republican to do so since George W. Bush in 2004. Trump lost the contest by 3 million votes in 2016 and 7 million votes in 2020, and he appeared to win by several million votes this year.
That was Mr. Osama Abdulaziz, correspondent from Al Akhbar channel. Thank you so much, sir. Now, we have different things to give it to you in the vibrant and the often unpredictable landscape of American elections. Swing state stands as the pivotal arena where the battle for the presidency was most fiercely contested. But what exactly are the swing states and how and why they are so crucial in deciding who will take the helm as the President of the United States? All of that in the following report.
Swing states, also known as battleground states, are those in which neither party holds a definitive lead, meaning their electoral votes could realistically go to either the Democrat or the Republican candidate. These states, due to their unpredictable nature, often receive the lion's share of campaign attention as candidates crisscross them in a bid to win the hearts and ballots of the undecided voters. For the 2024 elections, states such as Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin are poised to play central roles, with their populations closely divided along political lines. The significance of swing states extends beyond their current demographics and political leanings. They dictate where candidates spend their time and resources, which issues are prioritized, and ultimately, who will secure a majority of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. Historically, the patterns in these states can shift, with once steady political leanings transforming due to changing demographics, economic conditions, and social concerns. The fluidity of these battlegrounds underscores their essential role in shaping not just this election, but the direction of American policy and governance. All eyes are on the swing states. While national polls give an overview, it is in these critical areas that the real decision is made about who will become the next president. The results in these states do not just pick a winner, but also shape future political priorities. As everyone navigates this changing landscape, the choices made there will impact the nation's future beyond Election Day.
The writer and political analyst Nabil Mikhail from Washington, D.C. has to say a lot of this situation regarding the electoral process. Let us hear his point of view.
The elections will decide so many things about America's engagement in the world. It will define who the enemies are and who the friends are of the United States. It will define also how nations can differ or agree or disagree with the US. And there are so many issues, from climate change to the introduction of AI technologies to regional warfares and others. It will define international trade, the state of the environment, the topics related to global economic growth, and other issues. It will define the questions of war and peace in so many countries, and whether a few of these conflicts and wars could be terminated or just will continue. The Muslim Americans have many legitimate demands. They are demanding no discrimination against them when they go to the polling stations, that they have the right to exercise their duties as citizens of the US to vote and select whoever candidates that appeal to them. They also want no slogans hostile or making them enemies, no slogans directed against them by the candidates or by the campaigns. They want also to be airing their views. They want candidates to be listening to them and to their views, especially against the backdrop of the fact that they do not have a big lobbying group. They basically want also the politicians elected to implement the policies that will help the Muslim community and also help their their mother countries. Basically, they want a ceasefire in Gaza. They want to avoid a regional war in the Middle East that could be catastrophic. But I would assume that the Muslims, or I would say that the Muslims in America have made a great progress in entering the political process and being knowledgeable about the political system. Previously, even their campaign donations were returned by politicians. Now, politicians are soliciting money and soliciting their contributions, so they are having a positive impact on the electoral process in the United States.
That was Nabil Mikhail. Now it's time to have the whole thing in a wrap-up situation with Dr. Al-Janfawi. We are almost there. One final question regarding your health. Now, sir, let's see, and you have given us a very good summarization regarding the expectation in your own view to the whole world and to the American people. But let's talk about the last thing that the new president might face, the challenges that he is going to face regarding his own nation.
I don't think he will face major political challenges because the Republicans won both houses. This is what's
like we said, he has the utmost power, the absolute power.
And constitutionally, even though that he is described as a convict, meaning in other words, he will not face any legal challenges as he was facing before he was elected. In other words, all the prosecution by, say, John Smith and the rest of the other prosecution processes will stop because of the presidency. They might be postponed. And even if the Democrats raised legal challenges to continue the prosecution of Trump as they did before, I don't think this will impede his presidency, at least for the next 4 years. So he has a clear path to achieve what he promised, say the making America great again economically, dealing with the immigration issue and relationship, the restructuring of the relationship with the NATO members, and this is a very important issue.
Dr. Al-Janfawi, always a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for overcoming the flu system that you are suffering from.
That's very nice.
We promise us you come back again.
Inshallah. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Khalid Al-Janfawi, a writer and political analyst. Well, this concludes our program, which highlighted the United States presidential race to the White House. We would like to extend our gratitude to our guest in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that we gave you all the information you needed to know regarding the elections. The information right here on KTV2 will continue, and I will see you next week. Until then, take care of yourself and each other, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye-bye.